All right, so now we turn again to a more technical aspect of national accounting, which is the distinction between nominal and real GDP. What we are typically interested in is real GDP, not nominal GDP. And the reason for that is that nominal GDP looks at everything in terms of current prices, and it ignores the impact of inflation, whereas the real GDP takes into account or tries to filter out inflationary aspects. So let's just consider an example. So let's say we have a country that produces something in year one, and it produces something in year two. So now the real output is, let's say, apples. Let's say they only produce apples. Well, in year one, let's say they produce 100 apples, and in year two, they produce 110 apples. So in this case, real economic growth, so real growth would be 10%. Okay, now let's consider another example. And let me erase this. So let's consider another example. Where we take a look at nominal GDP. So we have, let's say, a country that has the real output. In year one, it is again, let's say 100, but in year two, it is only 80. Well, obviously in this case, the country shrank by 20% in real terms. But if we look at nominal GDP and we multiply everything by their prices, so nominal GDP, so let's assume that the price of an apple in year one is, let's say, keep it simple, let's say 1. But in year two, there was 100% inflation. So now what is nominal GDP? So nominal GDP multiplies everything by the price. So nominal GDP is now 100. And in year two, nominal GDP is 160. So nominally, the economy grew by 60%. But of course, that is a pretty useless perspective, because what matters is the real output. So what we should do is, if we just look at real GDP, what real GDP does is it holds constant the prices of a base year. So let's say if in year one the price was 1, so now as we calculate real GDP, if we calculate real GDP, we hold constant the base year price, and the base year is 1. Real GDP, and let's say, so now what we would do with the real GDP calculation, we multiply the 80 apples with the base year price, and then we get again 80. And now we see, oh, okay, so the economy shrank by 20%. So it is real GDP that economists are typically interested in, especially when we want to compare developments over time. So now here you see the formula for nominal and real GDP, but we have two goods, so not only one as I just did here, but now we have two goods, good A and good B. And what nominal GDP does, it multiplies the quantity of all the final goods and services of A, all the A's goods and services, times the price of the A goods and services, but in the respective year. And then we do the same thing for all the B goods and B services and multiply that with the current prices. But when it comes to real GDP, we have a base year. So in my example here, the base year was 1, and we multiply the output in the first year by the base year, and the output of the second year or the next year also with the base year prices. So in other words, we hold constant, so real GDP holds constant prices, and specifically the prices with respect to a base year. So you have to define a base year. Okay, so let's maybe work through an example. So what do we have here? So we have year 1 and year 2, and we produce two goods, A and B. And so of good A, we produce 100 units, and the price was 50,000. Okay, and in year 2, the quantity of A was 120 and the price was 60,000. Okay, and we did the same thing for B. Okay, so let's say nominal GDP for each year is, so now let's say nominal GDP year 1 is 100 times the price, 50,000. Okay, now B, we produce 500 B, and a B costs actually 500,000, and a B costs 10. So if we do the math, this looks like 5 million, and that is 5 million. So we get a GDP nominally of 10 million. Okay, so now let's do the same thing for the year 2. Nominal GDP year 2. Okay, so we have 120A times 120A times the price of 60,000. Must be something expensive, plus 400,000 B times the price in year 2 times 20. Okay, so now 120 times 6, that's 7.2 million, plus 400 times 20, that's 8 million. So that should be 8 plus, so 15.2 million. Okay, 7.2 plus 8, yeah, 5.2. Okay, so now let's do real GDP. Real GDP in period 1. And the base year price is always year 1. So we always use now those prices here. So those are the prices that we hold constant. So now we have 100A times the base year price 50,000 plus the B in year 1 500,000 times 10, which is again 10 million. So obviously for the base year, because base year is year 1, there is no difference between nominal and real GDP. So in the base year, nominal and real GDP are the same. So in the base year, nominal GDP equals real GDP. Okay, but now let's move to the real GDP in year 2. Okay, in year 2, we produce 120A, but now we do not take the price of 60,000 because we hold constant. Actually, there I made a mistake. I looked at the table wrong. So the base year prices, of course, are base year 1. So, so here, those are the prices. Okay, so we have the base year, the prices of year 1, not year 2, it was my mistake. So we take the quantity of year 2, 120, but we take the base year prices, which is 50,000, plus the quantity of B, 400,000. But now we don't use the price of 20, but the price of 10. And then what we get is, again, 10 million. Okay. So you see, when it comes to real GDP, the prices from base year 1, they were held constant. The only thing that changed was the quantity. Okay, so nominal GDP is 10 million. Nominal GDP in year 2, 15.2 million. And when it comes to real GDP, it is always 10 million. Okay. So again, this tells you how misleading nominal GDP is. And what we typically try to do is we want to look for something that's comparable over time, and that's real GDP. And in order to calculate real GDP, we take a base year and then use those base year prices for all subsequent years. So, and then we get something which isolates the effect of inflation. If we didn't do that, if we just calculate nominal GDP and compare that would be very misleading in terms of the true economic growth within a country. Okay, but let's stop here and let's talk more a little bit about inflation in the next video.